Hello, kakla'au. Welcome to Radio Story Hour with the Lillooet Public Library. I'm Christina, the Children and Youth Program Coordinator. June is National Indigenous Peoples History Month in Canada, and June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. During this week's Kids segment of Radio Story Hour, we're going to hear several short Indigenous legends from some of the nations in our larger region. We're going to hear a Lower St'át'imc legend called the Two Coyotes, a Secwepemc legend called the Story of Grasshopper, and a Sechelt legend called Salmon Boy. All of these stories are from books that are available through the library. First, let's start by learning two St'át'imc words. If you're listening from the greater Lillooet area, you're likely on the traditional territory of the St'át'imc Nation, and the traditional language of the Northern St'át'imc people is called St'át'imc. Let's hear what hello sounds like from one person to another, from the website firstvoices.com.
Kahlwa'au.
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 Can you try that? Kahlwa'au. One more time. Kahlwa'au. That means hello, from one person to another. One more word I'd like to share with you is the word for an Indigenous person, u'chlamiu, which literally means native of the land, or people of the land. Let's hear a St'át'imc speaker say the word.
U'chlamiu.
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 Can you give that a try? U'chlamiu. U'chlamiu. Good job. Indigenous people are the first peoples of the land. They have lived on this land for thousands of years. I am not indigenous to this place because my ancestors came to North America from Europe several generations ago. You can learn more Northern St'át'imc words and language on firstvoices.com. That's where these audio clips came from. So, let's hear our first legend. The story of Two Coyotes comes from the book Lillooet Legends and Stories, developed by the Mount Currie Cultural Center in 1981. First, here's some background from the introduction. Coyote plays an important part in the legends of many Indigenous peoples. Coyote has the same characteristics as humans. He is often cunning, smart, and courageous, but at other times he is stupid, vain, lazy, and greedy. Often he becomes the victim of his own tricks, but he always survives in one way or another. This short story is told by Bill Edwards. Two coyotes were going along. Then one of them said, "I am a coyote. Everybody knows that I am a coyote. But you are not a coyote. You are another one." "No way. I am also a coyote," the other one said. "Not at all. You are another one." "Okay, you will know it right now. I am going to cross this garden. You listen to the people." Well, he went across, and while he was going across, he was seen by the people. "Hey, there's a coyote going there. It is a coyote that is going there." He carried on, and he went out of sight. Then the other one took off. He suddenly appeared, and they noticed him. "There goes another one. It's another one that is going there." He carried on, and he got to the other spot where he met his friend. "See," he was told. "See, did you hear them? I am a coyote, but you are another one." Did you like that story? It's a bit silly and funny. Some legends are told for fun and entertainment. Others may carry important moral lessons, like this next one. The second legend for you today is from the Secwepemc Nation, around present-day Kamloops. The story is from the book Coyote as the Sun and Other Stories by the Secwepemc Cultural and Education Society. This is the story of Grasshopper. Grasshopper and his family lived by the river with the Salmon People. Everyone had to fish for salmon, hunt for deer, pick berries, and dig for roots. Everyone had to help prepare food for the winter. One day, the Salmon People came to Grasshopper and said, "Come and help us, Grasshopper. It is salmon season. We must all work together to fish and dry salmon for the winter." Grasshopper who was having fun in the tall grass, answered, "No, I want to play." So the salmon people went away. Grasshopper kept on playing and making his cheerful, chirpy sounds. Summer went on. Grasshopper played while the others fished and prepared salmon for winter. Soon winter came, and the world was covered with snow. Grasshopper could only find a little food, and it was too cold to play. Grasshopper shivered, and did not make chirpy sounds any more. He became weaker and weaker. One day, Grasshopper could not even find one thing to eat. He went to the salmon people and said, "Please give me some food. I am so hungry." The salmon people pitied him and gave him a little bit of dried salmon. The old one, who was traveling through the country, heard about Grasshopper's laziness. He called Grasshopper to him and said, "Grasshopper, you have been too thoughtless to gather food and prepare for the winter. From now on, you shall eat grass and spend your time jumping and making noise." To this day, you will see Grasshopper jumping about and making his chirpy sounds in the grass all summer long. Did you hear a lesson in that story? Was there a moral about preparation and helping others? I think so too. Now we have time for one more Indigenous legend. This one is an origin story, explaining how things came to be. It's called Salmon Boy, a legend of the Seashell People, by Donna Joe, illustrated by Charlie Cragen, and published by Nightwood Editions. The Seashell People live in the area now known as the Sunshine Coast, north of the city of Vancouver. Here's the story. Long, long ago, a boy lived in a village called Secwepemc, the winter home of the Sechelt nation. The boy's people lived in great longhouses along the seashore. It was a good place to live, but the people often went hungry during the long winter months. In those days, so long ago, the salmon did not fill the creeks and rivers of Sechelt. One beautiful summer day, the boy decided to escape the heat by going for a swim in the sea beside Secwepemc. As he swam out from the shore, a giant chum salmon seized him and pulled him down under the sea to the country of the salmon people. Although the country of the salmon people was beneath the sea, it was dry, and the salmon people walked about the same as people do above the sea. Everyone lived in cedar plank houses, and all along the beach their canoes were lined up in a row. The giant chum salmon took the boy to his home and made him a slave. The boy was fascinated by these very special people, and took careful note of everything they did. Some women made cedar root baskets and hats. Others made shredded cedar bark capes, skirts, and mats. Some men carved house poles, welcome poles, feast bowls, and dug out canoes from the wood of the cedar. In the winter, when the work of the salmon was done, and the longhouses were full of the salmon they had dried and smoked, they celebrated with singing and dancing for weeks at a time. Each house had its own singers and dancers. This was also the time for storytelling. Their food in winter months was salmon, which had been smoked and dried the summer before. In the spring, the people were hungry for food that was fresh. First they gathered the eggs or roe of the herring, which is a fish. Then they peeled and ate the soft green shoots of the salmonberry and thimbleberry bushes. Soon berries ripened on the bushes, and the people ate their fill of the tasty fruit. In the summer, families left their winter longhouses, packed their things into their dugout canoes, and paddled across the water to small cedar sheds where they lived and worked during the sunny weather. During this time, the people picked large amounts of salal berries, huckleberries, blueberries, and blackberries, and dried them on mats for use in the winter. They also fished the spring, pink, and sockeye salmon. In the fall, the chum and coho started to swim upstream to spawn. Great quantities of these fish were dried, smoked, and stored away to feed the people during the winter. The boy studied the salmon people for 1 year, memorizing all the things they did to keep from going hungry. In the fall, the salmon people got ready to start upstream to their spawning grounds. All the little salmon began to cry, saying they wanted to go too. The elders told them they could not go until they were 4 years old, but the boy was allowed to go with the giant chum salmon who had captured him. When they were ready to start, they took all their canoes and paddled to a small stream. They were a glad and merry party, and sang as they jumped in the water. When the salmon went upstream into shallow water, the little boy jumped out. He went home to Capelin and told the Seashell People about the many wonderful things he had seen in the land of the salmon people. In this way, the Sechelt people learned many things. The most important thing they learned was that the salmon are themselves a proud race. They are happy to come ashore each year and give their rich flesh to feed the people of the land, but they must be treated with respect. The people were on no account to break the neck of fish caught in the early days of the run, or the salmon would never return. The salmon creeks and rivers must always be kept clean and healthy, and each family must only take as many fish as they needed, never wasting any. From that time forward, the Sechelt nation always treated the salmon properly, and its people never went hungry. And that's the end of the book, Salmon Boy, A Legend of the Sechelt People by Donna Jo. Today we learned that some legends, or traditional stories, are told for fun and entertainment. Some carry important moral lessons about how to behave and treat others. And others are origin stories that describe how things came to be. I hope you enjoyed listening to these 3 Indigenous legends from nations across southern BC. That's all we have time for in this week's kids segment of Radio Story Hour with the Lillooet Library. Come to the library to check out lots of Indigenous storybooks for kids. I hope you can find other ways to learn about Indigenous history this month and celebrate Indigenous cultures with your family. Goodbye! Secwepemc.